Hello, welcome to the Hawaii Health Data Warehouse Coffee Break monthly webinar series. I'm Tanya Lowry St. John with the Hawaii Health Data Warehouse, or HHDW, in the Office of Public Health Studies at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. We're going to use the next 30 minutes to introduce you to the 2022 death records data and how to use them to build your own report on the hhdw.org website. I'm also going to give you links to death record reports with the 2022 data in our hawaiihealthmatters.org site. This presentation and demo should take about 20 minutes, and then we'll have a few minutes left for questions and an exercise so that we finish up in half an hour. Okay, let's get started. Vital statistics records in Hawaii are managed by the Office of Health Status Monitoring and the Hawaii State Department of Health. A death certificate is issued for every death that occurs in the state of Hawaii, and death certificates contain important information about the person who died, the date, the time, location, and cause of death. Causes of death are determined by a physician, an advanced practice registered nurse, a medical examiner, or a coroner, and they're coded and processed in accordance to the International Classifications of Diseases 10th Revision, or ICD-10. The ICD-10 codes are designed to promote international comparability in the collection, processing, classification, and presentation of mortality statistics. This process yields a single select cause of death known as the underlying cause of death, which we've made available through hhdw.org and will be demonstrating today. If you want to dig deeper into how the codes are assigned, please see our Leading Causes of Death webinar. And if you'd like to analyze multiple causes of death, then contact us, as we do have the data available in the warehouse, but not on the HHDW website. It's also available through CDC Wonder. HHDW has death data from 2000 to 2022. The Build Your Own Report Death Record module in HHDW contains 3 query areas. Counts allows you to examine death counts by occurrence and the detailed place of residence. You can filter and view the query by many demographic characteristics. And then there are 2 queries which calculate population rates. So they calculate death rates per 100,000. The population rate query is for crude and age-adjusted death rates by year, sex, and age, and the population rates by DOH race ethnicity allows you to run the causes of death by race, ethnicity for sex, and age group. All the rate queries can be run by both the state and the county level, and all of our queries employ suppression criteria. So cells with counts between 1 and 9 are suppressed, and rates are suppressed when the counts are between 1 and 19 in accordance with the recommendations by the CDC's National Center for Health Statistics, or NCHS. So let's first review the death record count query. We've updated the reporting framework of the entire death module to now match the leading causes of death reports. So you can now choose from the 51 leading causes of death, 39 selected causes of death, or 113 selected causes of death, or you can specify your own ICD-10 codes when you're looking at causes of death. And then for counts, you can examine the data by both where the death occurred and also the decedent's residence. All the deaths that occurred in Hawaii, whether to residents or not, will be in this query only. The data can be selected by consecutive years or non-overlapping custom groups. They can be displayed by age, by sex, and by race ethnicity, marital status, education, and military service. The 2 rate queries are limited to deaths to Hawaii residents and their place of residence. So it's not where it happened. If you were from Kauai, your death would be counted in Kauai even if you did not die there. This is necessary because to calculate a rate per 100,000 population, you need to know how many people of what age and sex live in that specific geographic area. The differences in the queries for the population rates and the race ethnicity are the denominators. The population rates uses an annual estimates from the census for age and sex of the population. And this is the query to use if you want to know the rate by sex, by age group, or by county. The population rates by DOH race ethnicity uses a 5-year aggregate file that's been created especially for HHDW by the census to generate population counts for race ethnicity that also approximate how race ethnicity is assigned using the DOH race ethnicity algorithm. To get down to that level, we need to aggregate 5 years of data at a time. So the denominator is fixed. So there's 2 denominators in this query. One is going to be from 2010 to 2014, and the other one is from 2016 to 2020. So these denominators will change every year, and these only have 2 denominators. So if you're running a query from 2010 to 2015, you'll use the first denominator. it does it for you. And then the next one, any date from 2016 forward, right, you'll use the second denominator. It's automatically done for you. So because of that and the way some of these loads, you might want to look at some of your data if you've been running it a couple times, and we'll cover that in a second. So thinking again about our death rate queries, because of our small population size, the death rates are only available at the state and county level. Whereas if you want to get into more detailed information about where things actually happened or the residence of people, then that would be using the counts only. The rates here are based on Hawaii residents, so non-residents are excluded. The years for the population rates for state and county have covered from 2000 to 2022, and these denominator changes is every year. When we're looking at the DOH race ethnicities, the rates are only available from 2010 to 2022 because we just bought those two special runs, and they have two stable denominators in here. So because the different data sources of the census race and the DOH race ethnicity denominators, you want to use a little bit of caution when comparing the population rates to the DOH race ethnicity directly, but they're pretty comparable. Also, I want to let you know that the census, again, re-released the 2020 and 2021 American Community Survey population estimates, which we have loaded into the system. We noted that the rates then based on those may differ slightly from what you ran before. So if you're looking for a trend, you probably want to rerun all of those years. And we've updated the data in Hawaii Health Matters accordingly. Also know that if you're doing trend data looking at our race ethnicity and you've been running data from 2016 onwards, you probably want to rerun those again because it's going to be using the new denominator. As I did mention, we have loaded all the data into the Hawaii Health Matters site. So we reloaded 2020, 21, and 2022. And because of our race ethnicity, our new denominators, we've actually changed the data that you'll see in there. So it used to be census race ethnicity, and it is now going to be DOH race ethnicity. We compared them both carefully, and we feel the DOH race ethnicity is better in line with how the data is coded from the Department of Health. And so this is a better denominator to use. And so that is what you will see on our site. And then I'm going to put in the chat for everyone a link to a bit.ly that has all of our death rate data that's going to be available in HHM for you to go ahead and take a look at. So let's get to it. To access the death data in Hawaii Health Data Warehouse, you could come to our hhdw.org homepage, and you can see that you can go directly to Hawaii Health Matters. You can go directly to build your own report. So if you want to go ahead, and you can also scroll down and you can see this is our announcement of the 2022 data. There's a little article about it with some fun links that might be helpful to you. But you can come directly here to click on build your own report. And this will bring you to all of our different data sources. And you'll see that our death data has been updated to 2022. So you can click here. You can also go to the data source page. So you come up here and you click on death data, and this brings you to our death data source page. And this is where you'll find all that background information. So we have some more information about the things that I covered today in terms of how the data is coded. We have links to the CDC Wonder underlying cause of death reports, or also the multiple causes of death. Link to our data release notes, which we'll cover in a second. Links to special reports that we do with the fetal death data for here, and then the induced termination of pregnancy data, which is here. The links to the number or the listing of the number of deaths per year for Hawaii. So you can see, whereas we jumped up about 800 deaths between 2020 and 2021, it's down more to in the 500 area for 2022. Also, you can find here our leading cause of death reports. For those of you who joined us last month, we debuted those new reports through 2021, and then now we have the updated series through 2022. You can also come down if you've been working with our system and you have extra questions and you need some more data and you need help finding that report or creating that, you can submit a report request. And if you're looking for record level data, you can fill out the form here and we'll work with you to direct you to the appropriate people in Department of Health to get record level data. And we have some extra data sources down here. Always in this system, when you're down low on the page, you'll find this little arrow. You can click up to bring you back up to the top, and we're going to go to build a custom data report. So here you can see this is our death query module indicator selection page, and we have our three queries, our counts, population rates, and population rates by DOH race ethnicity. Here we'll have our data release notes. It's always a good place to look. Again, that description of what's going on with the population estimates. And then one thing to note is that one of the things we've done across the series, and we'll be rolling this out across the HHDW platform, is we're reordering the race ethnicity data. So this is going to be the new order you're going to find it in. And when there's census race, you'll be finding it in this order as well. So just a little heads up, whenever we make changes, we make them here. So if you log on to one time and another and things look a little bit different, always check out your data release notes. So we're going to go ahead and click on here and run a standard query. The standard query for HHDW will start with the state for the last 3 years. So here you can see this is all the deaths that occurred in Hawaii over the last 3 years. You have a chart, which you can mouse over for the numbers, and then you also have the actual numbers here. So you'll notice that the number that you saw on the death data source page is 13,307, and that is here. Those are the total number of deaths that occurred here in Hawaii. And then you can scroll down. If you want to go to a different data set, you can click here. If you want to search information by topic area, you can click here. And then going down, you'll see our technical notes. Again, more information about that death certificate data, when we suppress estimates, how to find national data, how to cite this data. And then something to always note when you're thinking about Hawaii death data, in accordance with the state law, we do not have information for any data that has HIV/AIDS as an underlying cause. So I'm going to go ahead and click back on this arrow to bring me to the top. And those of you who are familiar with our system know the real power for the system is always coming into this modify query page. When we modify a query, the first steps are always going to be ways to filter the data, and the last step will be to display the data. And all the data can be displayed by 2 dimensions. So let's go ahead. One of the questions that someone had sent in is they were interested in information about drowning data. So let's just dig into that as our example today. Whenever you see one of these arrows, you can go ahead and click on it, and we'll sort of open the drawer for other information below. And we're going to take a look here at the NCHS 113 causes of death. So just something that you can realize again is you can click in on any of these. These are the leading causes, the 39 leading causes, and the 113. All of these roll up into these leading causes. So if you want to get in and get more granular. So I, for example, don't know what ICD-10 codes are involved with drowning. So there's 2 ways that I can take a look. I can go ahead and click on this icon here, which looks like a planet to me. And I can see then of the causes of death, what ICD-10 codes are associated with that. This is the national framework from the National Centers for Health Statistics, so it is a well-accepted framework. So if you don't have specific expertise in this area, I would recommend you use theirs. I can also scroll down through this list. And so I know that drowning is an injury, and I can come down here and I can see injuries, and I can see accidental drowning and submersion. So I'm going to go ahead and click on there. I'm going to assume that drowning isn't too common. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I would like to know about this in the last 5 years. So I can click here, just hold down my shift key. And so now I can see that I'll be looking at data from 2022 all the way through 2018. For now, I'm going to stick with all the deaths that occurred in Hawaii. I can go down and further filter the query by looking at only at certain age groups or certain sexes or any of these demographic characteristics, but I'm just going to run this right now. So you click submit, and you can see here in Hawaii in terms of deaths by, I can look here at my query criteria, and these are going to be deaths for accidental drowning and submersion, all the deaths that occurred in Hawaii. This is the years which are covered here. And then I can see here that it's about 100 deaths per year, with the exception, of course, in this big COVID shutdown year. So 461 deaths occurred in this time period. And I might be interested to know a little bit more about this, like maybe where do they occur? So I can come back up here and I can modify the query. And I can say, I would like to look at the deaths, and I can see I can do it by occurrence, by residence. I'm still interested in where people are drowning. So I'm going to go ahead and select by island, and I'll change now my display by to geography. And I've selected the island of occurrence. And so I can see here the number of drownings, deaths in the different islands. And I can see here that Lanai and Molokai have been suppressed. So they're either both between 1 and 9, or one or the other is, and the next lowest number is suppressed. So we do double blinding in a case like this so that you can't quickly go up and add and figure out what the answer is. And you'll scroll down here. Whenever it's a geography by itself, you'll see the system produces a map. So here is a map for that. So if I want to go ahead, I can look and say, well, are these people, so I know overall that we have 461 drownings. And so what if I want to look at it by residents? So are these people all from Hawaii who are drowning? Should I do a local campaign, or should I take a look and do an educational campaign geared toward tourists? And so I'm going to stick with my geography layer here, and then I can go ahead and also look at it by sex, for example, and hit here. And then you can see that if we look at the drownings among residents and non-residents, so our residents from Hawaii state, people from a foreign country, and the other mainland, I can look at the counts for drownings among the different groups and then help to use that to plan accordingly. And then I can even go back and say, well, what if I'm interested to see if there's patterns in terms of the age distribution for drowning? So again, I can go back and pick my age groups, and I'll go ahead and leave sex on so you can see it. And you can see that the highest number is among people age 60 to 64, men, that men, we already saw before, that men were much higher than women overall, or males than females, because we all also have children in here. So it's a very flexible system to be able to work with and to be able to answer research questions. So I have a question in the system saying, does the race ethnicity change only apply for the death data? And if you're talking about the order in which we're using, they will, the sort order will apply for everything eventually, but right now as we load a new data set, they will come on. And in terms of looking at the race ethnicity data, what we did remove census race from here, and we're just doing the population rate. It's only when you have to apply that population denominator when things get funky. Everything else should be about the same. Okay, so let's take a look at one of these population rates. So we just took a look at drowning. If you attended last month's coffee break, you might remember that unintentional injuries were a significant cause of death. So let's dig into that. So I can go ahead and look at our crude death rates, and I can go ahead and do a modify query. I'm not going to look at the main query because I know it's going to be the same. And looking at our topic causes of death, I knew that it was a leading cause of death. So I'm just going to go ahead and click here on accidents and unintentional injuries. And here, there's a little trick. You can go ahead and hit jump to submit. We've got one here and here, so you don't have to always scroll all the way up to the top or the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and hit that. And you can see then that over this 3-year period, there were 1,901 deaths due to unintentional injuries, and the crude rate overall is 43.8 per 100,000 population. So I can go here and I can play and look at it by age group and so forth. I can alter that query, but I want to just show you fast what the age-adjusted unintentional injury death rate looks like. So I'm going to click on here, go back up to the top, ask it to select a new indicator, and I'm going to look at the age-adjusted death rates. I'm going to go ahead and click into the population rate for this one. There's something else I was going to teach you in just a second, because one of the things that does happen is that the queries filter based on the data that's available. Okay, so we're here and we're in unintentional injuries, right? And we're in the age-adjusted death rates, and again for the three years running. So I can go ahead and take a look at that. And you're going to see that, again, the population is the same. It's 1,901, but when you age adjust it, it's 37.2 per 100,000 as opposed to the 43.8. And that's because injuries occur primarily in younger people. So once you age adjust that population, it's going to change slightly. I can use the system and the fact that it rolls up then to investigate more about what these unintentional injuries look like. And so here I can come in, I can come back into the modifying the query. I'm knowing that these guys roll up into these guys. I'm going to come down here into injury and try to understand more about what is causing those. I can hold down my shift key or my space bar, and I'm going to go ahead and select all of the unintentional injuries now. And then I'm going to view it by cause of death and hit submit. And then I get this graph. Whenever you have one of these graphs and you see this ellipsis, you can go ahead and just sort. If you sort in the table, then it will go ahead and sort in the graph above. You can see that it's accidental poisoning and exposure to other noxious substances, which is actually overdoses, right? Overdoses fall in this series of ICD-10 codes, falls, followed by motor vehicle accidents. This would be all others, and this is our drowning. So if we're thinking then about our drowning question from before, Injury is the fourth leading cause of death in the state of Hawaii, and drowning, because this one would fall out, is the fourth leading cause of injury deaths in the state. So very quickly, you can use the system to go through and really get some great information. And you can go through and you can sort this by and look at it by race, ethnicity, and so forth. So I want to give you some time to be able to play with the system. So I'm going to go ahead and put up a exercise for you. And then while we're doing that, I can answer any questions. Okay, so using the data, I'd like you to go through and determine how many cancer deaths were there in Hawaii from 2020 to 2022. And the hint there is the leading cause of death is going to be malignant neoplasms is code for cancer. So you want to look at that. And then take a look at it, how many of those are among Hawaii residents. And then I'm challenging you to change your display down at the bottom and try the line graph out to look at the age-adjusted death rate for cancer from Hawaii. And we're going to look at it for a 20-year period from 2003 to 2022. What is the trend and what are the trends by sex? Then we'll do one of those things to look at the leading causes of cancer death. So we'll go through and take a look at that. And then which race ethnicity had the highest age-adjusted death rate for cancer. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to work on that. And then we'll come back and work it through together. Okay, we'll go ahead and start looking at the answers here. So I'll come back to the query page. And the first question was, how many cancer deaths were there in Hawaii from 2020 to 2022? So I come into counts number of deaths. And the next question is going to be, how many of those were among Hawaii residents? So I'm going to sort of cheat and do these both together. So I'll do cause of death and then cancer. The hint was to look for malignant neoplasms. So that will be here. And then I want to look at deaths by residents, because that way it will show me answers to both of those at the same time. And then my year group has already been set. And so you'll see here that overall there were 7,564 deaths due to cancer. And then I can either add these up this way pretty quickly, or if I want, I can just modify my query so that it only is geography and doesn't include the year. And let the computer do the adding for me, which is always my favorite. So 7,480 deaths are going to be to Hawaii state residents from cancer. The next thing is to use a line graph to examine age-adjusted death rate for cancer in Hawaii. So I'm going to need to select a new indicator because I'm in counts. So I need to go to the age-adjusted death rates. So selecting here, I'm going to modify that query. We know that we're looking at cancer, so malignant neoplasms here. And we're going to change the time of the query from 2022 all the way to 2003. Hold down my shift key and select. You can see the breadcrumbs there. And then I'm going to ask it instead to give me a line bar with errors. And I can look here at the trend. And so you can see that in 2003, it was 155 deaths per 100,000 age-adjusted mortality rate, and it is down to 118.2 per 100,000 in 2002. I can always quickly look at those confidence intervals. I can see that they don't overlap, so they have been, it's a significant decrease in death. And in the answers, I'll show you how to calculate what percentage that is. And then I can go ahead and look at that also by sex. So just adding that in there. And quickly ascertain that it is decreased for both males and females. The next question was, what were the top 5 leading causes of cancer death among Hawaii residents? So here I'm going to want to come back and modify that query. And now we've actually changed the time period back to the last 3 years. And for this one, this is where you'll go and check the roll up. So I'm just going to select all the kinds of cancer except for the benign neoplasms, because these are all going to be the malignant versions of the neoplasms. And then I can jump to submit. And I'll make that none. Whoops. Cause of death. And this one I'll make none. And I'm going to come back here to the horizontal bar graph for this one. And again, so then you can see the data this way. I can quickly sort it. And so you can see that the leading cause of age-adjusted rate of death would be for cancer would be lung cancer, followed by, this would be all others. So then generally we wouldn't be talking about that one. Then we have colorectal cancer, pancreatic cancer, breast cancer, and then liver cancer, and what those are. And then the last question is, which race ethnicity had the highest age-adjusted death rate from cancer? So in this one, I'll need to go to the race ethnicity query and select malignant neoplasms, last 5 years, and hit submit. And we can see it this way. Again, I like to sort it. So you can see that other Pacific Islanders have the highest death rate due to all forms of cancer at 315, and they are significantly higher than, looks like, Native Hawaiian and all of these other ones combined. So you can look at the data pretty quickly. You could quickly look at it by sex and so forth. So there's a lot of different ways to look at the data. Put up the slide with the answers, and then I am here to answer any final questions that you might have. But again, I hope that you do join us next month for the Pan Plan coffee break, and then in February for the birth record coffee break. I hope that you spend the next 30 minutes working with the system. And if you have feedback and questions and concerns, please let us know at profiles@hhdw.org. You should also all have my email address from this. But we hope that you enjoy working with us. And if we don't talk to you sooner, we hope you have a very happy and healthy holiday season. Thanks.